What's up, guys? Today on the podcast, we are joined by Dr. Justin Rabinowitz of Strive to Move. He's located in Warren, New Jersey, and he also works out of where I work, Gabriel Fitness and Performance in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey. We talk all about how to get yourself out of pain, whether that be that you're way too stiff. We talk about the concept of stiff as fuck. We also talk about the possibility of you being too mobile, okay? It is possible. We also go into a lot about golf-specific stuff towards the end and how you can improve your game so that you can play for a long time, pain-free. So, hope you guys enjoy it. Buckle up. Here we go.
So you really are in your car, huh?
What's up?
How you
I don't
doing?
play around. I'm authentic. I'm always in the car.
Yeah, you look like you're about to launch a spaceship.
I mean, I'll multitask if I have to. It's only 9 a.m. Got a lot of shit to do today.
That's right. That's right.
I saw Dell's name. I'm like, oh, we're getting the better Rabinowitz. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I was summoned that someone else had to use our business Zoom account, so I had to switch.
Gotcha.
So it's what it is.
Oh, well.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Ready to get this thing rolling?
Whenever you are, my friend.
All right. Well, today we got Justin Rabinowitz on the podcast. He is our chiropractor at Gabriel Fitness and Performance. He runs the show, and he is the founder of Strive to Move, based out of Warren, right?
Warren and Berkeley Heights and Gabriel. Yep.
Yep. Okay. So that being said, you want to do your own little intro?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, Brian, thanks for having me. I'm excited to see your progress and growth. It's been a while. We've known each other, 5 years now almost? And you're still drinking the same Bang energy drinks?
Yes.
Every day?
Star Blast today.
There you go. Yeah, so like you said, founder of Strive to Move. My story sort of started in high school, fractured my back playing football, kind of had really bad medical care, that whole thing, and ended up as a chiropractor having back surgery while in school, and at the same point went through like terrible rehab. And long story short, it's just like that's sort of what shaped our practice. And chiropractor is what I am. It's what my degree is in, but as you know, that's a very small portion of what we do and how we see things at our practice. We really think about, when people come in, getting to the root cause and then attacking the problem, whether that's an adjustment or it's a rehab exercise or it's teaching them to deadlift. We always say, if it's in our scope, we're going to do it, as long as it's in our scope, if it's going to solve the problem. And that's what Strive to Move was founded on. And even I have a new business now called Adjust Your Performance. That's chiropractic and acupuncture, and it's the exact same thing.
Oh, nice. I didn't know you were doing that.
Yeah, it's been open since July. I have a business partner. She's actually over in Springfield, so not terribly far from Berkeley Heights. But yeah, Dr. Allison Heffron, she's a stud. She treats me. She's a doctor of chiropractic, and she's got a master's in acupuncture. So she's coming to the table with a lot of guns.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you guys had a lot of tools in your toolbox already, but acupuncture now, it's like, what's left?
It's I mean, at the end of the day, other than doing procedures, right? Like doing injections and procedures, from a conservative approach, we sort of believe that we have all the tools that we need, and we genuinely believe, we talk to our staff about it, that if someone doesn't need an injection or surgery, we believe we're the people that they should see.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible what you guys can do. I mean, I've been a personal client of Justin and Ashton, both at Strive to Move. I know a bunch of our clients have, and it's just incredible how you can take somebody from like debilitating pain to like functioning no problem. Like, not a quick fix, but it's still incredible.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that. And like I said, for us, it goes back to trying to figure out what actually the problem is, right? Whereas, what we
Yeah.
find a lot of times, and even with some of the clients that we've gotten from GFP that go somewhere else, you go with shoulder pain or back pain and they sort of do a protocol, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But if you come in with shoulder pain and it's coming from your neck and no one ever explored that piece of it, and again, getting to the root cause, of course, you're not going to get the result. And for us, that's really where we try to get to it. Sometimes it goes even beyond that, even something beyond our scope. People that have sort of mental pain or pain sciencey, talk about chronic pain stuff that isn't even a physical problem anymore, and we could attack that all day with adjustments or deadlifts or instruments, whatever we want, but it's not going to fix the problem. And so I really believe that our thing is, if we do it, the treatment's easy if we know the diagnosis, right? The hardest part is getting that piece of it right, and not just saying low back strain, but finding the root cause of what problem to attack. If we know what to do, it's at that point it becomes pretty easy. The hard part is figuring out what the problem is. The what is easy once you know the why.
Exactly. I know when I was seeing you for the shoulder at first, I could not. I went down every rabbit hole imaginable, YouTubed it, tried taking care of it myself, and while there is a lot of good help out there, there's nothing like getting somebody who knows their shit looking at you in person. Until I met with you, I don't think I ever considered maybe volume's the issue. Maybe I'm just doing too much in my shoulder, however, what my mobile limitations are, or I guess the buildup of all the muscles around the shoulder wasn't strong enough to handle that capacity. And until you and me had a good conversation, I never even thought of that.
I think for you, it was a few things where a lot of regular folks go wrong too. And I say that in the sense of you are, and I mean this, you're one of the most knowledgeable trainers that I am around. And again, it's hard to diagnose yourself, even if we think we know, right? Which is why, people like you and I exist and have jobs. But in your case, yeah, volume was a thing. But before that, it was the root cause, and the fix, I remember for you, was very, very interesting, because you came in with a tight shoulder. You had a lack of range of motion in your shoulder, which so many folks out there have. They just feel tight. They can't get their arm overhead. They can't twist their arm. However, if you went on YouTube, or you went to a regular physical therapist or a regular chiropractor, or got an injection or whatever, most likely what they would have done is give you mobility and stretching. Which is, if you Google or you go on YouTube and you look for tight shoulder stretches, tight shoulder mobility, you're going to end up with God knows what, band extension shoulder internal rotation, 90-degree, blah, 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 which is great if the fix for your tight shoulder is stretching and mobility. What we find more often than not, especially in your case, is the fix for your tight shoulder was actually more strength and stability.
That's right.
And that's getting to the root cause, right? If you remember, I remember your case, we did quadruped, on all fours for the audience at home, getting almost on the floor, crawling, which is a big shoulder stability type exercise.
Yep.
And almost immediately we saw the range of motion improve. And we see that almost all the time, right? Another example could be the equivalent is a low back problem, where most people stretch their low back and they get a massage and they do all this, stuff like that. If they got to the root cause and realized it was a core instability problem, if they got the right core exercises, all of a sudden their back pain would decrease immensely. And that's what we talk about. It's a great example of getting to the root cause, and also where people can very much get lost going down the rabbit hole. And I guess giving value to your audience, and people always ask me well, how do I know if I should come to see you? Because I don't know the answer to that, but what I can tell you is this: if you have a problem and what you've been trying on YouTube or whatever, stretching, give it a period of time, 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 weeks, whatever you're comfortable with. If it hasn't worked by then and you see no positive long-term, at that point, you probably should try something else. Our famous line in our office, Brian, if you came in with a shoulder and you were doing mobility, we'll always say, like, if stretching was going to work, it already would have.
Yeah.
And so that's getting the root cause, like the fix. We understand the problem, you have a tight shoulder, but the root cause, what's the actual problem? If it's instability, more stretching will actually make it worse, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That whole mind frame around it, like, it blew my mind when we first started like talking about it, because so many times you see people in the gym like constantly doing these stretches, or like doing foam rolling, or like putting a lacrosse ball on themselves, like rolling themselves to death for like 30 minutes. And it gets rid of the pain enough to do the workout. But then as soon as the workout's over, boom, it's right back.
Comes back.
And it's like, there's no addressing the source. It's just band-aids on band-aids on band-aids when you need stitches.
It's and you know what, when we're at the gym, especially at GFP, it's always a hard conversation, even with you guys, where, because you guys are just trying to help your clients and be like, hey, Sally's got a shoulder thing, like,
Yep.
what do you think, what can we do? And to be honest, like, behind the curtain, my first thought in my brain is like, I have no freaking clue, because I haven't assessed that person, because I know that if they have anterior shoulder pain, they could have bicep tendonitis, which would be one treatment. They could have a tendinosis, which would be a different treatment. They could have an infraspinatus referral to the front, which obviously would be a different treatment. And they could have a nerve problem in the neck, which would be a different treatment. And so, like, when people, and my wife, she gets mad at me all the time, because family, like, hey, Justin, what do I do to fix my back? And that's where my brain goes, because that's the right thing. Like, I want to know what the problem is, because a lot of the issue becomes, Brian, if you have inflammation in the front of your shoulder and it's causing pain, and I give you mobility drills, there's a very good chance I'm going to make you worse. And that's where we often find trouble, because the right answer, which we don't want to come off as like salesy, like assholes, is like, I don't know. The only way I can give you a good answer is by you coming in and me being able to assess the problem.
Yeah.
And people can't do that for themselves, obviously. Like, it's hard to, unless you're like a medical doctor, and even then it's hard. Like, I don't treat myself.
I mean, doctors don't put themselves under.
That's right. Yeah. So that's sort of the process. Actually, we do a group fitness class at one of the country clubs, Fiddler's Elbow, in the area, and my partner in that texted me, said, hey, Greg felt like he strained his hip flexor or something like that. And again, my brain immediately, what should he do? Well, my brain immediately goes to, okay, it could be a strained hip flexor, it could be an upper lumbar referral, it could be a groin referral, and all three of those require different treatments. And so in that case, like, which works for one would actually make the other one worse. And that's where it often becomes difficult and then I guess maybe what I'm, the point of all this is saying, the most important piece is to get a really good assessment and diagnosis, so that we can actually fix the right problem. And for the people in your audience at home, if you're frustrated and you're like, have this thing that you're actually trying to fix and it isn't getting better, don't just live with it. There's probably somebody's missing something.
Yeah. I mean, that's like classic case of like, somebody goes to yoga and that for low back pain, and they don't get better, and they keep going, and they're like, I just got to keep going. It'll get there. And it never does.
There's very few issues that actually works for. The only time that is an effective strategy, which is less often than we think, where you said we're allowed to curse on this podcast.
Of course.
So we have a diagnosis in our office, literally called SAF, which stands for stiff as fuck. So like, we know there's guys that come in, they wouldn't dream of being able to touch their toes. Their rib cage is shot. They can't get their arms overhead. They have 25 degrees of neck range. I mean, globally, their whole body is just stiff as fuck. It's not as many as you think. Those are the ones that legitimately could go to yoga every day, and over the course of a few years, maybe their mobility would improve. But if they had back pain or shoulder pain, like an actual injury, yoga still wouldn't be the answer. But to actually improve mobility and maybe stress reduction, those are the ones that, like, yoga would maybe provide an outcome rather than just being a form of exercise, which is totally fine, by the way. I'm not anti-yoga.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, everything is in the application, right? Like as long as it's the right place, the right time, a lot of stuff makes sense.
Yoga, I've had patients that we want part of our rehab protocol is actually me going through yoga poses with them. And I'm not a yoga instructor, but a lot of times, and to your point, the people that like yoga are usually probably too flexible and don't need a ton of yoga. And what I do with them is actually sort of dial back positions so that they're not putting themselves in like overstretched positions. I've had that more often than you would think of like people that are overstretched, so to speak, in a yoga setting.
And would you say that they get into a compensation pattern, like, or do they just have such an extreme range of motion that still, I guess you would classify as authentic? Like, but what do you see more of, like compensation, like an authentic super range?
Well, so two things. One of the things about fitness in general is I kind of joke with people. The people that need yoga usually like to lift weights, and the people that lift weights probably could use some yoga. Again, we usually we're going to gravitate towards the things that we're good at. Meaning that the people that go to the average yoga class 2-3 days a week and really enjoy it, they're usually enjoy it because they're good at it, meaning generally they're flexible, potentially even hypermobile. And to answer your question, it's okay. Actually, I would say being mobile, being hypermobile, if controlled properly, is better than being really tight.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
However,
oh yeah. I was going to say, like you told me, difference between flexibility and mobility. Like, do you own that range of motion or not?
Exactly. Yeah. And then I think the people that are in those, flexible positions, truthfully, and I used to work a lot with CrossFitters, and especially the female CrossFitters. A lot of the very successful female CrossFitters, their background was gymnastics and dancing, which meant they were hypermobile. The prerequisite to being able to Olympic lift is being able to get into those positions. And with the ones that were successful, they just added strength and stability on top of it. Now, if you're really, really stiff as fuck, it's hard to be a good Olympic lifter. It's hard to be in those positions. Did I lose you?
Sorry about that.
You back?
I'm back. It was overheating somehow. I'm like, it's 30 freaking degrees outside. I don't know how I'm overheating.
What, your phone was overheating?
Yeah, I guess the heat in my car was pressing up against it. I don't know.
Got it. Interesting.
We're good now though. All right. Sorry, where did I cut out at?
I think we were talking about yoga.
I thought we were on a CrossFit.
Oh, sorry, you're right. We're on CrossFit. Yes. Yeah, the prerequisite to being good at CrossFit or like Olympic lifting is usually, especially the female, like the dancers and gymnasts, they get in there and are very successful because they can get into those positions and they just need to add strength on top of it. And so like being being mobile or hypermobile actually could be a benefit if, to your point, if you can control it. The issue that a lot of them have, I used to work at Rutgers with the gymnastics team. The issue in that setting is they're high impact, really high impact, hypermobile. Most can't control it. Tons of injuries.
Yeah, I can only imagine with the gymnasts. See some gnarly injuries there.
My friend is still, he was a student manager when I was there years ago. Now he's the assistant coach, and I think, this year they've had 3 Achilles tears. Part of, going into looking at with the pandemic, they were off for how many months, and then they're trying to do the best they can. The problem is nobody actually knows how much load bearing, right? Back to your shoulder
Yep.
comment. It kind of goes back to that. How much could they tolerate in practice, and how much is enough to get them ready to compete versus what's too much? And that's
Yeah.
sort of where a lot of these, especially in that sport, because like they practice 12 months a year. And so when pandemic happened, they were kind of off for like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 months, like legitimately.
Yeah.
That's like from the time those girls are 5, they never did that. And so it's very, very different. And yeah, it's been rough. So that's a massive, massive factor in that sport, and in any sport, but specifically that one with the amount of reps necessary.
It's crazy with the pandemic. Like anybody who knew anything about strength and conditioning or like how the body works, like saw the shitstorm coming of injuries. Like, I mean, you saw it in the NFL, you saw it like in the MLB when they took their little break, like injuries on injuries. Like it's just crazy.
Yeah, especially I think, you sort of get used to a cadence of training, and you kind of get used to what you do. And then when that's totally sort of taken from you, this one was totally different because everyone was on the same page. It's like, wow, how does our body actually respond? How do they actually, do it? And yeah, and then you start to question you look at like the play in the NFL, and the quality of play was actually just the same. It's like, all right, these guys actually need to practice. Like,
Yeah,
they didn't practice. Like, do they need to? Probably not. It's kind of all bullshit anyway.
exactly. I mean, if you're a professional athlete and you don't know your playbook, like you shouldn't be there.
Right. Yeah, no, that's right. That's right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just you can almost make a comparison to like people when they come into the gym for the first time in forever, and then they just try and kill it. Like they try and go balls to the wall and then pop injury, and it's like, surprise.
I think now, I always think about what are we going to look back on 10, 15 years from now and be like, I can't believe we used to do that. I always wonder that.
Yeah.
Right now, if we look back, we could say, I can't believe they used to do this, and like fitness trend or whatever. Like there's always been trends. We're like, that was really dumb. And I wonder at like the things that we all do now that we think are correct. What are the 10 years from now? What are we gonna look back like? That was really dumb, right?
Yep.
And I wonder, to your point exactly, of like you get the 45-year-old deconditioned mom that comes in that's had 2 or 3 kids, which I don't have kids and I can't have kids, but like I know from patients that's a brutal thing that no one gives enough credence to, having children on your body. Like it takes a toll.
Yeah.
And they come in, and again, and I actually feel for you guys in your position, because they come in and 85% of the time they come in because they want weight loss, which needs a certain training effect. Diet, and listen, you're the diet guy, that. Yes, diet is massive, but they need a certain training effect in order to, lose weight. But
Yep.
I think that sort of competes directly with most likely what's best for their body. Like in a perfect world, if all things were perfect and you had as much time as you wanted to get someone to the physical point that they could do X, Y, and Z, like how long would that process be before you let someone maybe deadlift or whatever? Like how much load capacity would you try to build on top of someone before you push them, independent of the training effect that you're trying to achieve?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing with like a running, right? Running is a form of cardio that, we could argue whatever, but it is a form of cardio. But at some point, most people that are deconditioned, they go out and eventually something goes wrong because the capacity just gets above their load tolerance. And I think about that a lot of like, in 10, 15 years, are we going to be like looking back and saying, I can't believe that 45-year-old mom that never worked out before, in a month and a half, we had her kettlebell deadlifting. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm not sure. Like, I'm not 100% sure, but I wonder.
I'm going to make a bold prediction and say 20 years from now, I'm hoping that the general public is going to start looking at health and wellness and fitness in a longer range of time as the norm. Like right now, we're so obsessed with month-long, 8-week, 12-week challenges. Like when in reality, people need like year-long plans sometimes because they don't have the prerequisite skills to succeed.
Yeah.
And those prerequisite skills, like I'll take nutrition, for example, like most people don't have the skills, the habits that are paramount in succeeding, but those habits don't always result in weight loss in the beginning.
Sure.
So you don't get that instant gratification, which is the problem.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming it's the same. It's the same way when it comes to like, in your case with the pregnancy, like most women probably need to strengthen up. Like they got to do the boring exercises over and over again and master them. And then they can do something, but that's not going to get them the results that they want right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even to your point, when we see a new patient, we always have to get really clear on expectations and what they're looking for, right? Because like we tell people legitimately, like if we don't believe we can help you, we're not going to take you on. Like we make no lies about what we do. It takes a lot of time. We're spending an hour with a person, sometimes twice a week. It's not cheap. We're not the cheapest option around. And so if we like aren't confident that we can help someone, we won't take them on as a patient, our best guess, because it's not worth it to us, to kind of string someone along. With that comes being really clear on expectations, right? And so if someone comes in and they've had back pain for like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, and their expectation is that within like 2 or 3 weeks they're going to be good. Well, probably they might not be a good fit for what we do, because we're not going to guarantee that. Like we're not magicians. And so to your point of like long term, my thing is sometimes I ask myself, if I couldn't fix their back pain, what else could I do for them? And a lot of times it involves like that long term health aspect of it. Like just like if I couldn't get them to lose 10 pounds in the next 3 weeks, what could I do for them? Well, I could sort of teach them about maybe better nutritional habits and how to do this and how to portion control and some other aspects of it. And I really often think about how I can just create, just like you, nutrition habits, and us, like for us, movement habits, like take away the stuff that got them in this place. Oftentimes that gets them out of pain too, but long term it's like let's try to remove all the shit that got them in this predicament in the first place.
Yeah. And back to what you said with how you pretty much tell some clients, like, listen, like, I don't know if I can help you. Like, as soon as you told me that in our first like interaction where we were fixing the shoulder and everything, like, not sure if this will work, but I'll let you know. Like, that's where you sold me, because at least from what I hear from other people, not enough professionals in the medical field say that. Like they're not willing to admit failure, which it's not failure. It's just like pushing to somebody who might be better suited. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like, especially in the personal training field, one of our best abilities is the ability to refer out. Like if we know that this person is like in pain in a certain way, we could tell them like, go ahead and try and see this person and see if they can help you, because I'm not a physical therapist. I am not an endocrinologist. I can't do a lot of this stuff, but I can help you apply what they say.
Yeah. 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 And Ashton and I, when he first started, I don't remember the exact conversation, how we got into it, but um, basically it went to, I said to him, if you can't actually help them, how can you still help them? Essentially, like if you couldn't get them out of pain, how could you still help them? And what we find a lot of times is, there's some people that we might have to, to your point, refer them out maybe for an injection or to do other things. But I have one guy in particular who came to us. His biggest concern, he was in pain, but he kept going back to the chiropractor, and the guy just kept saying, "Yeah, just keep coming. Eventually, you get better." And he just felt like he was lost. Like there was no plan. There was no this. And for us, it was like, well, I'm not 100% sure if we can fix your problem, but I know that we'll have a plan. And I know that if we don't do this by this date, we're going to refer you to this person. And if
Yeah,
we don't do this by this, we're going to bring you here. So again, going back, if you couldn't help that person get out of pain, how could you still help them? Well, you could give them a plan. You could make sure that you're on top of it. You could coordinate whatever, like to your point, do they need an endocrinologist? Do I need to refer them out? How can I still help that person, even if I couldn't help them?
exactly. Exactly. It's just, I mean, it's crazy how, I mean, you see it in your field, like the group on Kairos.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like a quick fix. Yeah, and it's in every field. And again, like I said, we similar to you guys, like you're not the cheapest option in town. And but there's still plenty of people that are satisfied to, they see the value in what you guys provide, which is, a high level service. And, I think the reason why, we've sort of been successful at GFP, like our business has been successful, is because we're in different businesses, but we believe in the same things.
Yeah. And I
And
mean
yeah,
that price is also in itself, it's like it does help, because like if you're searching for the cheapest option, you're gonna get the cheapest option. Like,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, have you ever seen that Click Funnels guy?
Russell Brunson.
Russell Brunson, that's it. I just listened to his book, and he's like, I've invited so many people from friends and family to my stuff for free. None of
Mhm.
them are successful. There's people paying $25,000, and they're almost 99% very, very successful. They achieve what they want. Like, if you want what you want, you got to pay what you need to pay.
Yeah, 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 and that sort of brings us down a different rabbit hole. But I study business a lot, and we've often found with people, like they say that it's funny. They say like they not maybe can't afford what we do, or something like that. And there are times, no lie, we said, okay, well, I totally understand, and we'll treat you for free because we think we can help you, and they
Yeah.
still don't want it. And it's like, okay, well, is it that is it a money thing, or is it they don't believe they can get better, or is it that they don't want to commit to it, or like whatever? There might be something else there that we sort of missed along the way. Whereas if that was the only objection, in theory, if we took that off the table, it should correct it, but it doesn't necessarily work that way.
Yeah.
You know?
It's crazy when you get to that point where you realize, like, it's not always about money, or like what, like, you think the problem is, or why they're coming to you. Like, there's so much under the surface.
And I think the other part too, I think in our environment, especially at Gabriel, it's no secret that many of the people there are very, very successful in their career. And what
Yep.
people like you and I, who are younger and sort of getting started, where like money is a main concern in a lot of the decisions that we might make early on, for these people, that isn't. They have other problems, right? Like their concern is, are they going to be able to enjoy the vacations with their kids or grandkids? They might have time and they might have money. So this is interesting, and this might resonate with some of your listeners. Starting to work with, like, we have this group at the country club. We call them the Weekday Warriors. They're all basically like 65 to almost 80-year-old guys that are retired, that obviously were successful. They're at a country club, and they want to do is to be able to play golf and hang out with their buddies. And if you look at that and analyze it, right, these guys have the freedom of time. They're retired. They have the freedom of money. They've done really well for themselves. The one freedom that they might not have is the freedom of their health.
Mhm.
And so people like you and and it was a big realization for me, right? In that sense of, like, again, being younger and sort of kind of make my way and trying to make a living, but putting myself in their shoes, where no longer is the money the number one thing. Always, it's always a factor, don't get me wrong, right? It's a part of the equation. But for people like that, Like that's not their main concern. Their main concern is like, I have the time, I have the money, but I might not have my health. If I
Yeah.
can't walk 18, who gives a shit how much money I have, right? So if I can't get my arm over my shoulder to hit that 9 iron, like it doesn't matter. Like I can't pay for a new shoulder. Literally, you can't. I need my
Yeah.
health. And so, I encourage our staff to sort of think in those terms of make sure that you're not being selfish to think of what your biggest problem is and think about them.
Yeah. And it's almost like that theory of like, I know Vince tells us, or I think he brought it up, is the different kinds of wealth. Like there's not just money wealth. Like there's also, you could throw in like how your relationships are, your health, and maybe even spiritual in there. And like, it's not that we're all not wealthy in some way, but it just shifts. Like as you start making money, maybe your relationships start going down. And then it's like you're trying to find that sweet spot where you can get all of them as high as possible. So you're the happiest version of yourself.
Yeah.
But just because you make a crap ton of money doesn't automatically mean your health is going to be perfect. In most cases, like from what we've been like clients we've seen, it couldn't be further from the truth.
The opposite.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
there are some good things from each system of each area of wealth, because then you could carry that over into others. Like if you have somebody who's like super duper wealthy and they're super committed to getting work done, but they can't eat protein at 3 times a day, it's like, all right, let's take that level of commitment, reframe it, and put it here. Or if you have
Yeah.
somebody that moves like shit and they just refuse to do the prescription you gave them, it's like, well, I mean, you have a weekly meeting. Why can't you have a weekly doing or a daily doing this?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And also we talk about making sure we're meeting people sort of where they are. We have a guy right now who just is just actually similar to your description. And Ashton was getting frustrated and saying, like, basically about to tell the guy, I don't think I can help you because you don't do anything that I tell you to do. And it goes back to expectations. I told him, I said, listen, like, if you really genuinely want to help this guy and meet him where he's at, like, if he's not doing it on his own and then he doesn't come to you once a week to help him, what do you think's going to happen? It's going to go really wrong. So maybe for now, all that happens is that once a week where he comes to see you and he's forced to drive and come to his appointment, that's all you're going to be able to do right now. Is it perfect? No. But is it better than the alternative? Maybe, right? The other idea too, um, in your world, people laugh at this, but it's true. I remember being in like GFP or other gyms, and you look at these people who've been there years, and they look exactly the same. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
And what I came to the realization of, I don't know if someone told me or I came to the realization, is that for a lot of these people, the win is just not getting fatter.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to go eat with, you told me about with Doug, not using last names, but Doug, it was like, all right, if you want to get to this level, you're going to have to stop drinking your whiskey at night. It's like, it's probably not going to happen, but like, you're good where you're at. And if we're just making a decision, and for these people, like at the end of the day, all of us at every age, we're just fighting the inevitable.
Yep.
And so for Sally, who's 54, if she can be the same at 55 as 54, you've actually won, because most people, they go downhill.
Yeah.
And it's a different way to frame it, right? It's a different way to think about it.
Yeah. I remember the exact conversation when I just started working, and to give a little reference, I was fresh off of a bodybuilding show. Like I was rocking the 6% body fat, shredded, and I'm like, this is the only way. And then meanwhile, I see one of my mentors in the beginning, and I learned a ton from, Joe Hardigan, having a conversation with one of our clients, and this woman is devastated. Like, oh my God, I've been here for a year and I've made no progress. And he's like, listen, like that first month or two that you came here, you put on a ton of muscle, you lost fat, and you've maintained that. Like just because you haven't lost a ton of weight like over and over and over again, and it's not this giant boom, that's not a loss. Like if anything, it's a gigantic win, because on average, most people are getting fatter every single year. If you're maintaining and you're not getting any worse, that's a gigantic win. And it just blew my mind, because I'm like, that's so true. How many times do you see people in their 60s and they look a little overweight, then they get to their 70s and they're really overweight? it's just the natural trend. So if you're beating the trend, you're winning.
Yeah, we had this. My golf guys that I was just talking about, they want to increase their swing speed, and it's like that's great, and some of them actually do. But in reality, if you're 74, if we can just keep your swing speed the same from 74 to 77, that's freaking huge, massive,
Yeah,
right? That's the thing. There's a reason why in golf you go from regular tees to senior tees, because as you get older, you can't hit the ball as far. So if 3 years later we're at the same position at that, like we win massively. It's a massive
exactly. It's just that reframing, because everybody for some reason has this image in their head of like, if I don't have abs, I lost.
win,
Or
right?
like, if I can't drive the ball, I don't play golf, but I'm going to take a shot in the dark here and say, if I don't drive the ball 300 yards, then I'm garbage.
Right, right. Yeah. No, you're spot on for sure.
Sweet. I can act like I play golf.
There you go. You played once. You didn't look bad.
Hey, I am very proud of the fact I made it a full 18. Oh no, I take that back. A full 9 without losing a ball.
That's good. No, I
And
mean, listen,
I didn't have to go back to buy more. I went through one little box.
that's the same can't be said about many, including myself.
Hey,
So
my buddy told me, he's like, you're an anomaly. Like the
yeah.
only person that hasn't like tried to whack the ball every single time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
But
that's it.
since we're on golf, that seems like it's kind of like your niche, other than CrossFit. Like it seems like
Mm-hmm.
golf is your thing. Like for the average golf goer, what
Yep.
would be like some main points that you see in a lot of your patients that you think like in general most of the golf community can benefit from doing, whether that be like movement or
Yeah.
any type of mental stuff?
Yeah. I think the main part with golf, the false belief is that you watch the pros and they just kind of go out and go to the range and hit balls and go play, and that's how it happens. And what you don't realize, even with some of the guys that you would look at and be like, oh, he's out of shape, is like they work their ass off to get to the point that they can go out and play. Like there's a guy, Harry Higgs, who if you saw him, you'd be like, ah, he's like a 25-year-old dude that just drinks beers, which he does. But before he goes out and plays around, he's in the gym for an hour and a half to 2 hours, getting his body ready to do it. Right. And so what I think a lot of the amateur golfers, the average, 55-year-old guy that sits at a desk all day and then tries to play golf and wonders why he's in pain, is that if they're doing nothing other than trying to go to the range and get ready to go and then play around and they're in pain, like, of course, right? Golf is not, it's something that you can play your whole life, but that doesn't mean that it's easy on the body. And I think the major false belief for the average person is that they think that they can get away with just preparing for golf by playing golf.
Yeah. It
And
blew my mind how hard playing a full 18 is. Like I'm 28 and that jacked me up.
oh yeah, you'll be sore and it's obviously, back, shoulders, knee, hips, and if you walk, forget about it. I mean, we're not pros, but like if you think about those guys, they're doing that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If they make the cut, they travel Sunday night or Monday. They're playing practice Tuesday, Wednesday. I mean, and then they're going to the range and practicing. But even the average club golfer who plays, let's say, once or twice a week, if you're sitting at a desk for 10, 12 hours a day, don't really exercise much, don't do much any mobility training, and then you go expect to play on the weekends 18 or 36, it, you would be the anomaly if you felt good. That's the truth, right?
Yep.
And so that's sort of the approach that we've taken, is looking at some of these guys and saying, like, listen, there's a whole other component to this that you don't even know about, which is fitness, which it started at the professional level, but now it's trickled down to more of the amateur level, specifically with with different training like TPI and different training and mobility thing. The thing with golf that's interesting, because it does span like literally a whole lifetime, is if we look at gymnasts, like gymnasts have a age bracket. By the time they're basically 22, it's over, right? The difference between golf is that it's a youth sport all the way through like 80, it's 80, God bless, 85, 90, sometimes 90 years old, but you can be
Yeah.
older when you play it. The difference is typically if you're working with a junior golfer and you're working with like a senior golfer, 50, 60, 70, it's totally opposite, right? The junior golfer who's good is probably more on that hyper mobile. His joints move too much. He probably needs to get stronger and control things. The 40, 50, 60-year-old that sits in a chair all day for the last 25 years is probably kind of that SAF, stiff as fuck, and needs mobility and has lost mobility and like just has to gain or maintain any mobility that he's got. And I think that's one of the unique things, because golf, you can play for your whole life. It very much is like in your world, Brian, it would be like you training, the football team at 12, and then at 3 you get stay-at-home moms, and at 7 you get the guy that works on Wall Street. Like they all would look very, very different.
Yep.
The commonality in golf's case is that they're all trying to do the same thing.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Yeah, there's something to be said for where you're at in life, because it's like when you're younger, you can push the pedal to the metal and probably benefit a ton, and the risk is a lot lower. But as you get older, you got to ease up on the gas and like pick your battles.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's I had another golf program running, and one of the guys that I was working with is in his 50s, executive, sits at a desk, used to travel pre-COVID. And, I asked him, like, what was he trying to get out of the class we were doing? And he said, I'm 50 something years old. I look at some of the guys at the club I'm with, and they're in their 80s and they play 2-3 days in a row. And he's like, I'm not sure that I can do that now, but I want to be able to do that. Like, he just didn't think his body could handle it. And so I think that what can we do to get someone to get to them that capacity? Now, watching him move, I can understand it. Like, there was a lot of issues there that should have been addressed. And for the most part, again, I'm stereotyping or making generalizations, but I would say the vast majority of club golfers don't really do anything.
Yeah.
And you'd be lucky if they kind of maybe do go for a walk or maybe do some cardio. But from a health perspective, that's probably good. But from a golf perspective, that does nothing. It might actually make you worse. And what we've found is like, it's like low hanging fruit with some of our golfers, because they've literally done nothing ever, that just giving them something is like massive.
Yeah. It's crazy. There's so many parallels to what you're talking about, like nutrition and everything. Cause it's like, you find that 1 or 2 things that they can master and it checks 1,000 boxes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Now it's getting close to training session time. So before we head out, is there anything you want to plug? Like, are you offering any online stuff, or you want to talk about your website?
Yeah, I mean, if people are in the area, strivetomove.com is our website. We're in Berkeley Heights and in Warren. In the local area, you can find us on social media as well. And
I'll plug that. I'll put it down in the description so people know it's Strive number 2 Move.
Number 2 Move. Yeah, we have a YouTube channel. If there's anyone listening that is a golfer, we do have like specific pages for a lot of different golf content if that's what you're interested in. And then if anyone's listening and wants to email me personally, drjustin@strivetomove.com. I'm happy to answer any questions that you've got.
Awesome. And everybody here knows I'm just Coach Fitzz with 2 Z's across the board. You can find me anywhere. Okay.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much, Justin, for coming on. This was a hell of a conversation. I wish we had more time, because that honestly probably could have gone like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
I appreciate it. Well, have a good training session.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the day.
Later, man.